Get on the train before it leaves the station. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down.
Hello there, everybody. How you doing? Okay, so you will know what's coming here today if you were watching Paul and I over on Jane Sharper Than a Pencil's YouTube channel earlier today. This is a clip that I was explaining over there on that live of here in LA where some officers were apparently making an arrest, and it got real interesting. They had the guy's arms behind his back with his wrists right next to each other. All you do is put the cuffs on at that point, right? Because you have the person ready to be cuffed. And so that's what you would think is coming, but a whole different thing happens. So I'm going to go ahead and play the clip for you once so you can see it real quick and see what I'm talking about, and then we'll come on back. Okay, so you see what I mean there. You're expecting at that moment when that video starts that you can see that guy's arms behind his back, that he's at the moment where he should be getting cuffed, and what actually happens is like, whoa, right out of left field, really, where that cop just starts pummeling the guy. The guy doesn't even fight back. He takes several shots, and he just kind of stands there, tries to just kind of like, tries to do stuff like that just to try to shield himself from some of the blows, but he doesn't actually try to fight back. He doesn't actually try to resist in any meaningful way that I can see in the video. So it's really an odd video. It's disturbing, and I'm happy to see that the Los Angeles police department or LAPD is looking into it and investigating it. Want to say this right off the bat. I am not anti-law enforcement or anti DA or anti-state or anything like that. But what I am is I'm anti individuals like this gentleman who are obviously, let me put it this way, to put it in another light. What disturbs me about this gentleman is that having this gentleman involved in criminal justice situations, if this is the way he conducts himself, he creates opportunities where guilty suspects can get away on a technicality, because clearly this guy is cavalier and thinks standard operating procedure just doesn't apply to him, or he just thinks he can make his own rules and do whatever he wants. So all right, having said all that, and like I said, I'm not against law enforcement. What I did notice here, something I haven't mentioned yet, and this is the whole reason why I decided to share this clip with everybody today, because I keep wanting to illustrate over and over again, because often people will say that it's ridiculous. How could you try to suggest that all these law enforcement officers and agents and stuff, whatever, would all just want to frame Avery? It's like, it's not necessarily that anybody wanted to do anything, okay? It's like I say, I believe that most of the individuals in this investigation just went along with what seemed like it was being found where it was found. They weren't questioning how it got there overly much. They began to later when they realized that two serious lawyers were going to be coming on as Stephen's counsel, and they realized that the evidence was going to get really, really heavily scrutinized, and they started to realize maybe at that point some of the holes, and then they went after Brendan. But okay, so what I want to point out in this video is officers don't have to have a malicious intent. Agents of the state don't have to have a malicious intent. Another example of what I'm talking about is how to fix a drug scandal. Look at what happened over there in the Massachusetts DOJ. Okay? With everybody trying to cover it up, to the point even where anybody that came looking for the files that would show what was going on with those two drug labs, with those two techs, drug testing technicians, and anybody that came sniffing for those and looking at those were getting heavily intimidated. They were made to feel very uncomfortable when they were eventually able to get in to review all the files that were there at the DOJ that they had been holding back and playing games with and everything for years. So my point is that people don't have to be directly involved when they're in law enforcement or agents of the state. They don't have to be directly involved in anything to go along with the flow. All compasses point north type of situation. Okay. This clip is a further illustration of that, and I'm going to go now again through the clip, but this time I'm going to be going through it, possibly stopping it and talking as we go, and talking a little bit about what's going on in the clip, particularly with the officer who is there as backup. Okay? I want everybody to look at the body language of the officer who is there as backup. And then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about that. Okay, so like I was saying, here they are. They have the suspect arms basically behind his back. They're ready to cuff him. He's ready to be cuffed, right? And so you would think the next thing that's going to happen is that. But keep your eyes on this officer right here. This is the commanding officer here, right? This officer here is like the backup. Just watch what that officer does. This officer does not show any kind of alarm or anything at what is happening. It looks like maybe there is an initial reaction of a slight shock, but then it looks like pepper spray or something is being pulled out and used on the suspect. I'm not sure what exactly that backup officer is doing, but that backup officer is not doing a damn thing to prevent that individual who is getting beat repeatedly and not fighting back. He's just getting beat repeatedly. So, it's interesting. So here we go. Watch her. What's that? What is she doing there? It looks like she's spraying something at him. Is that pepper spray? She's spraying this guy with pepper spray? Right? Now she's getting out a radio casually as this guy is beating. I mean, look at this guy. He is just landing blow after blow, and she is just like casually pulling out her radio like, oh, let me call this in. Like, whoa. And, it's to me, she may not necessarily wanted to beat up on this guy, and she may not have initiated this sequence of events, but she certainly was willing to go along with it. It's quite a clear illustration of what it's like with agents of the state, law enforcement and stuff, because I guarantee you, because this video surfaced, we will see statements from this officer how, oh, I didn't expect him to start hitting the suspect, but I didn't know what to do, and we're going to hear a bunch of excuses as to most likely why that officer felt scared of the other officer. I mean, it'll be interesting to hear the stories that come out about this, to be perfectly honest. But the fact is that officer there, the backup officer, is really not showing much concern. Doesn't seem to be overly concerned about what's happening. And I think it's somewhat shameful. So here's the rest. I'll let it play out.
Shut the You're not cooperating. You're gonna get hit.
Okay, so in that last little section there, you hear actually audio of the suspect, the guy being hit, and the officer. And you hear the guy saying, "What's wrong with you?" to the officer. Okay? Pleading honestly with the officer, like, "What is wrong with you?" And the officer's like, "You're resisting." Okay? Which he clearly isn't. And so the guy says again, "What is wrong with you?" And the officer tells him to shut the fuck up. Or whatever. So, I mean, you see it there. It's pretty shocking. He's like, and then he tells him, "Get on the ground." I mean, after everything you had, I mean, if I sit and think for a second, folks, about that. Like, how, if I was that guy, what would I do in that situation? What would you do in that situation? They've already had you once where you were cooperating. You had your hands behind your back. And they should have been just putting the cuffs on and taking you to the station to book you, which is what should have been, which is what normally gets done, right? Okay? So you did that, you put your arms behind your back, and suddenly you got sucker punched and pummeled. Over and over and over again. And this guy's telling you to get on the ground. What would you think? You know what I would think? Why? So you could stomp me out? Dead men tell no tales? You're just going to tell everybody I was resisting you until you stomped me out? I mean, how would you feel in that situation where the officer is clearly delusional, or at least has some kind of agenda where he's decided you're going to get the crap beat out of you today? And then tells you need to get on the ground. I mean, seriously, the first thing I thought of, if he gets on the ground, you stomp him out. You're completely irrational right now. You're completely out of your mind. And that was what occurred to me there at that final segment. So, yeah, it's an alarming clip, folks. But really want to focus on the fact that, it's watching that backup officer and how that backup officer didn't do anything. She went along with the brutality. Instead of getting involved and trying to go, hey, okay, fine, oh, whoa, okay, let's arrest him and let's go by the book. Instead of getting involved and trying to do that, the backup officer seemed to just go along with it. As I said, all compasses point north, right? So it's absolutely something that's very concerning. So there, you can see a couple of things. Number one, how law enforcement, not just in one place or anywhere in particularly, just one place anywhere in particular, but generally all over the place you will find officers who engage in activity that they shouldn't, as we just saw here in these clips, where that one male officer was clearly out of line. And he was, who knows what he was thinking. I mean, they had the guy ready for slapping the cuffs on. I mean, and he could have put the cuffs on the guy and then hit him. But I have a suspicion that if he had slapped the cuffs on and then if he had hit the guy, that he might have actually been putting him, he might have known that would have been just too far. And he may realize, I mean, I'm not sure what the technical, what the law and the technical is, like the legal and the law is regarding the arrest there. But it could be that he decided not to do the cuffs and just decided to start hitting the suspect because that's how he was going to claim the suspect was resisting and wouldn't let them put the cuffs on, because he didn't expect somebody to be there videoing it. So, like I was saying with Jane Sharp on her channel earlier, cops will they will basically use their report writing as creative story hour, and they will tell whatever story they like. So clearly, this is to me raises a lot of interesting questions. Was this cop essentially deciding not to put the cuffs on because he wanted to make it more convincing later when he went to claim that the suspect was resisting, obviously not expecting that there was going to be a camera right on it. So there's a lot of questions about this, and obviously LAPD is looking into it, and good for them. I applaud them for doing that because we do need to find out what the heck was going on with this officer, why he was why they were ready to slap the cuffs on, and then he suddenly chooses to start pummeling the suspect brutally. And the suspect doesn't fight back. The suspect doesn't try to do anything except try to protect himself and shield himself as best he can, without actually fighting back. And like I said, the secondary officer there, who didn't initiate it, but wasn't doing anything she wasn't getting involved to do anything about it. And it's that mentality. It's similar to the how to fix a drug scandal, where over in the DOJ over there in Massachusetts, where this type of thing happened, just like it's happened in Wisconsin in Avery Dassey, and just like we see it happen in lots of wrongful convictions, particularly like what me and Paul were talking about is going on there in Mississippi with the forensic odontology videos that we did yesterday. You know, there in Mississippi, there's a whole culture of covering and supporting Hain and West to try to keep those convictions from unraveling, you know, and that sort of stuff. So yes, everybody gets together and works toward a common goal without necessarily having malicious intent. It's just like an automatic knee-jerk reaction for them. So it's something that I want to point out. It's something that I want people to understand, because, you know, we do want to think, and most of the time we do, that our law enforcement and our agents that are out there looking out for us, that they're good people and they're doing their job right, and 99% of the time they are. But occasionally, sometimes it's willful, sometimes it's because they don't have the training to handle the situation that they're dealing with. There's a number of factors, but sometimes it's not perfect. It's not the way it should be, and it's not, you know, that sort of thing. So we have to watch out for situations like what we see here in the clips that I showed you today. I am very eager to hear more about what you know, the explanation for this officer who basically just started pummeling this guy who was ready to have the cuffs slapped on. He was all set up, both officers, one had each arm. I mean, there was nothing stopping them from getting those cuffs on, and suddenly the male officer's throwing in a right hook and catching the guy off guard, and probably rung his bell pretty good, because the guy looks like he's standing there for a minute, like maybe he's trying not to fall, like if it knocked his balance off, like he's like grabbing maybe one of the rails there. It looks like he was about to go down from it. Okay, and so yeah. Pretty wild. So I hope you guys found that interesting. Like I said, this is illustrations of what I mean by all compasses point north. Okay? This is what I mean. This is an illustration of it. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it. You know, I'm going to be uploading my interview with Dan Davies from my final segment of Mammothon, I believe for tomorrow, for Monday. So you guys can be looking out for that. Tuesday, I'm going to be talking with Ricky Kidd, exoneree Ricky Kidd, over at I Am Resilience, We Are Resilience. He's now kind of shifting it into We Are Resilience now, so it's kind of, but it's both. That's his little pet project that he's kind of getting going now that he's been exonerated, and he wants to help bring more awareness for wrongful convictions, and he's an awesome guy. I love it. He's got a lot of energy and intensity, and you know, he's just got a lot of drive, and you know, he's just really, really good guy, and I wish him the best. So I'll be talking to him Tuesday, and then I'm looking to upload some point a little bit later after Tuesday, the talk between Magilla and I and Jeff and Zoe and all that sort of stuff from my final segment of Mammothon, saving what I think a lot might think is the best for last, because everybody loves Zoe and talking about the dog so much. So saving that one for last. That should come out later this week. Hope you guys will enjoy that as well. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.